Hey there. Welcome back to the Scaling Deep podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Princik, membership expert and business strategist. I am happy to be here with you today. I know I took a break again last week after I got back from my whirlwind week in Miami with my mastermind that I went to immediately after running a week-long challenge, the membership multiplier bootcamp, which was a little bit of a last minute decision in that I decided to jump into doing that, I think end of September, early October. So I had a really short period of time to put together the whole thing, not quite from scratch because I'd done this boot camp before, but it was like very different in that I included all new content. So there was a lot to put together in terms of delivery and presentations. I also ran it in my Facebook group for the first time and had to learn a few new things there. So it was a bit of a push. I'm really glad I did it. It ended up turning out better than I thought, which was amazing. But I also was really eager to come back from my mastermind and start really like taking stock of where I'm at, because I had been through a whirlwind year of trying new things and staying really on top of what I need to do next. So I didn't really come into this year with a plan. I came in with a goal of stretching myself and hitting some new goals. Now, I'm happy to say that in October, I had a huge new milestone because I earned the most I ever have in a month before. And that was really exciting. Not going to be super easy to replicate, at least not for the next couple months. But it was still really interesting for me to follow my nose a little bit and make some impulse decisions. I mean, not crazy impulse, not bright, shiny object, but just make some strategic moves and decide to offer some things in some new ways that weren't necessarily pre-planned. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that this whole year was a giant experiment. I want to go through all of it with you in the next month or so when I do some year and wrap ups, but I tried new things that I'd never tried before. And the year before I tried like one or two things. This year I really went for it in a few different ways. So that boot camp that I ran last week of October was part of that. And it was, of course, like, intense, had a lot of work. Thankfully, I hired an amazing new assistant who was able to help me with all the slide presentations, because that is like the kind of stuff that keeps you up late at night and makes you want to pull your hair out and go, why did I do this? So despite it being still like a stretch, I didn't have sleepless nights. I didn't have really late nights. There's a lot to put together with events like this. But the good news is that I can run it again, and I plan to run it again, and it'll be so much less work, and I will be able to focus on optimizing it and making all the parts that didn't work as well work much better. And I'm highly confident that I can do that with way more time and space. So again, this year was all about experiments. What I was hoping to get out of it was what I have so far got out of it, is that everything I've done this year, I wanted to do again. But the reason why I want to talk about what I want to talk about today is because I didn't know that until last week when I came home from my mastermind and I decided to crunch the numbers in a slightly different way than I had before, with a little bit of perspective that you get when you're not crunching the numbers of something you did a few days ago. And when you're actually looking at it on a whole, overall, what was the outcome of what this did for you and your business? And that's basically what I asked myself. One of the reasons why I thought this is important, we did a lot of talking about financials at the retreat, and I also was able to ask people lots of questions. And one of the things I was starting to come to on my own way, even before I went, was this idea that it's not like getting that breakout or achieving that breakout success is going to be as easy right now at this time in the world. And it's still entirely possible to grow a profitable, sustainable business that can keep growing and get to where you want it to be. And we hear all the stories of people who are getting like 10x and 5x and 100x. Well, have you noticed you've started to hear those less and less these days? I mean, maybe I'm just not seeing them in my advertising in my feed, but I've been scrolling more than I have in a long time. And I'm just not seeing that. And because I think these are tighter times, we're not on this massive growth trajectory en masse as an industry, as an online industry. And so while, yes, there are businesses that are knocking it out of the park, there are businesses that are, or there are offers that are like doing amazingly well and surprising the people who are running these companies or making these offers, because they happen to be hitting a nerve. They're meeting the need of society. They're in time and they're super successful. And that will always be the case. But in general, it's like we're not hitting times as easily where, for example, the advertising, it's so cheap to run Facebook ads that you can literally put in $1 and get out 5. That can happen, and it happens once in a while, but it's not happening as obviously and as continuously as before. But we don't need that. And this is where I really feel like I can grow, and a lot of you guys can grow as well, because we do not need to have that breakout offer to use our small margins to grow sustainably. Because what inevitably happens is that when somebody grows with a breakout offer, they grow quickly, they expand fast, they bring on new team members, they have higher expenses, and then they can't repeat that same profit margin. And then all of a sudden they are trying to continue their growth, or at least keep at the same level. And the profit margin has sunk down so much, become so much smaller that they can't sustain it and they don't know what to do and they're stuck. Whereas imagine the business that is growing at like 1.5x. So let's say you run a challenge, it costs you $1,000 to run your challenge, including the support you're getting with your team, including your time, including like the things you have to spend to run that challenge. And let's say you were able to get 2,000 out of it. And perhaps that $2,000 in members might actually lead to a larger client lifetime value. So some of those members will go on to buy other things from you. Some of them will stay even longer. You are creating something that you can do again and again and again at scale. Because imagine that that $1,000 is now 5, and then you get 10,000 out of it, still at the same 2x return. And some of that $10,000 in member value will actually be people who stay really long. And some of them might even go on to work with you in other ways. So you are then able to scale that. And it's predictable and it's doable. And so that really just requires leveling up and repeating, and leveling up that initial spend. Like you're willing to put more into it at the beginning, instead of just that like $100 can make 200. That's not a big deal. But if $1,000 can make 2, that's better. 10,000 can make 20,000. That's like, now at scale, you're seeing that profit margin really work for you. So I really want to build my business next year and base the plan that I'm going to create in the next month on everything I did this year that had this profit margin that wasn't so obvious, that it took actually crunching the numbers and looking at it in detail to see that there was a profit margin in there, that it just wasn't so big that it required looking at it line by line to really see that it was there, knowing that I can expand that, and that I am going to be growing in a lean kind of way, never expecting to get like a breakthrough opportunity that's going to just pile people and money once into my world that can't be repeated, because that is going to be very, very difficult to replicate Whereas we know we can keep doing what we do, planning instead of to toss something out that doesn't look dreamy and perfect right from the get-go. And just we're doing it again and learning how to optimize it and getting the support from someone who knows how to optimize to help you see where the gaps are or help you ask you the right questions to find out where the gaps are. Now, I just want to give you that example just to summarize this. My challenge, for example, I spent just under $1,000 in ads to mostly get new people into it. Some people did come from my list, but a bunch of people were new to it. And in the end, I actually thought I only got a few sales, but I ended up getting 5 people who bought into my membership. And I was completely surprised because I took me actually doing some of the digging to see that 2 people I was so busy, I didn't realize that they actually came from the challenge. So I thought it was only 3, but even then I still broke even. And there are going to be people who are going to stay beyond just the 1 month. So that is like a really small scale experiment that I did. It's not huge numbers. It wasn't a huge risk, but I realized that with the engagement I got, with the connection I made to people, with the confidence I have now running an event like that, knowing that it worked really well and the tech was smooth and it was fun to present and I had lots of people responding and engaging and doing the homework, I know that I can do that on a bigger scale. I know I can feel more brave bringing more new people in at a cost that might even be lower because I definitely ran ads at an expensive time of the year, and repeat that and continue to either improve that profit margin or even get better results, and which would be way less work, way more fun, and way more predictable. So that just goes to show how an event you can look at and be like, well, it didn't do so great. Did well enough. It had a profit margin that is still yet to be seen because it's only 1 month of people who have joined. And if I know my lifetime value, I know that it'll average much more than that. And also just to know that I can repeat this again and spend more time on the parts that didn't go as well as I wanted because I was too busy just putting it all out there in the first place, that with all that already created, now I can do a better job. So again, what we're trying to do is build something that we can sustain so that we can plan, we can have more freedom and security and knowing things will work. We don't not riding that roller coaster of huge expectations and then huge disappointment. We just know that things are going to go well and well enough, and that we can improve it in small ways. We can like plan and take a little bit of time off. We don't have to throw things out and then recreate brand new things because we think it doesn't work, because we're just properly analyzing it. And we're also just getting our expectations in check about what it really looks like to grow a business that has a healthy profit in it, covers the expenses, and can connect to our audience and bring people into our world and our memberships. And that's really all it takes. So I teach all of this inside my Scaling Deep Society and inside my mastermind. And if that's something that you want to learn more about, make sure you get on my list, because it is actually just about to hit Black Friday. And I've got some irresistible offers, which are going to be like once a year only. You're not going to see this again for at least another year, and maybe not next year, where you have a chance to get in and learn from me, because I share everything. I talk about this all. I share my behind the scenes. I'm very open about all the things I do and having honest conversations with my members face to face on Zoom calls, so you can see in real time what's working, what's not, and I can help coach you through it. So I hope you have an excellent rest of the Black Friday Madness week. If you're in the US, happy Thanksgiving to you. And I'll see you here next week, where I'm going to share with you all about how to win over your new members right from the get-go. Thanks for being here. Bye for now.